Jigsaw and his little buddy Amanda are back once again to teach us valuable life lessons. Let's talk about Saw 3. Yo, what's going on everybody? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Justin. This is Peter, and today we're here to talk about Saw 3. This is the third episode in my Saw review series. Now, among the reviews and rankings on this channel, you'll also find videos talking about physical media, toys, collectibles, all kinds of fun stuff. If that sounds good, I'm gonna go ahead and link a couple of my most recent videos down below. Check them out, maybe think about subscribing. But if you could, like this video. If not for me, do it for Pete. You ready to get down? Okay, buddy. So guys, once again, we're back to talk about Jigsaw and Friends in the third installment of the Saw series. I'm really excited to talk about this one. To everybody who's watched my reviews for 1 and 2, thanks for stopping by for this one. Like I've said, this is the first time that I'm watching all these movies, so I'm discovering them along for the first time, reviewing and eventually ranking the entire series. Something else I'm doing in each of these reviews in the Saw series is I'm also giving, along with my rating of each film, I'm giving my predictions or expectations of what I might want to see in the next installment of the series. So at the end of this review, along with that rating, I'll be giving my expectations and what I predict to see in Saw 4. So be sure and stay tuned for that. But without further ado, let's just jump right into my full and in-depth review of Saw 3.
Oh yes. There will be
spoilers. Returning to direct once again is Saw 2 director Darren Lynn Bousman. Also back is Leigh Whannell, who also wrote Saw 1 and 2. Leigh Whannell said he wanted to give Saw 3 a lot more emotional weight as compared to the first 2 installments, specifically involving Jigsaw and Amanda's storyline. Audiences responded extremely well to Saw 3's more character-driven focus, resulting in the highest grossing box office of the entire series. Saw 3 raked in over $169 million at the box office. Not only did it make a shitload of money at the movie theaters, Saw 3 managed to sell 2.5 million physical media units in its first week, which is just insane by today's standards. Obviously making more than enough to cover its $10 million production budget, which was a significant bump up from Saw 2, which only had $4 million to work with. They made Saw 2 on a $4 million budget, so pretty big jump up. Another fun fact, during the promotion of Saw 3, 1,000 promotional posters were made with actual blood in the printing ink. A small amount of Tobin Bell's actual blood was put into printing ink. That ink went on to be used to print 1,000 promotional posters that were sold and auctioned off before the release of Saw 3. Pretty crazy. You can actually go on eBay and find these every once in a while. Posters made with Tobin Bell's actual blood. Jigsaw's latest game consists of a grieving father going through a series of tests in which he has to save those who are tied to the event of the death of his son. Jigsaw has also kidnapped a doctor in which she must keep him alive until the end of the game, for if she doesn't, she dies. So in my last review for Saw 2, I had some thoughts about what might happen in Saw 3. Let's take a look. I definitely hope we find a little bit more out about Wahlberg's character, especially the relationship with Detective Carey. Like I said, thread the movies together, keep the continuity going. I really want to see that happen. And I still need to know more about Jigsaw. Was he married? Does he have kids? What's his job like? I want them to expand on his character. I also hope they kind of expand a little bit more into him and Amanda's relationship. Does he really fully trust her? Is there still some like weird thing? Is it still a test? Is he using her? You just don't know. So they kind of set it up like he's just gonna die. Obviously he's not gonna die in this movie. At least I don't think he's gonna be dead in the third one. I like the idea that they're carrying Amanda's character on to kind of continue his work. I want to see how their relationship started. I want to see how they got talking. I want to know how much she knows, him teaching her maybe to build traps. I don't know. I'm excited to see what happens with their relationship and a little bit of background on it. So those are my predictions, and obviously we didn't get a lot of information with Detective Eric Matthews. He's kind of missing in action for this entire movie, other than that extremely brutal first scene. Oh my God, was anybody else just cringing during that scene? Jesus Christ. I kept on thinking to myself as he was just bashing his foot into a fucking jelly. Would that have been less painful than sawing it off? I don't know. It looked pretty painful to me. That was a really brutal scene. But after that, we don't get a lot of information about Matthews, but we'll get a little bit more into that because he does come into play at the end of the movie. As far as Jigsaw and Amanda stuff, obviously he's not going to die in this movie, at least.
I don't think he's going to be dead in the third one.
Which I wanted to see more of. We did get a lot of that, but a lot of these predictions that I made for Saw 2 actually do fall a lot into the main meat of my review. So let's just go ahead and go into my review. First off, the main thing to praise here as far as my positives are concerned is the emotional weight that that this movie had compared to the first and second movies. I actually found myself feeling some type of way about these characters, even the new characters who we've just been introduced to in this movie. I was fully invested in these characters' stories. I really, really was. To drop brand new characters into an existing plot and put them alongside characters who you already care about. It could be a really difficult thing from a writing standpoint to say, here are these new characters, I really need you to care about these characters, otherwise this movie is just not gonna work. I found myself being moved by the storyline of Jeff, the grieving father, as he goes from room to room facing all of these different people that played a part in the accidental death of his son, as well as the other new character they gave us, Lynn. Not only was it crazy suspenseful knowing that she has this basically bomb strapped around her neck and she's forced to keep Jigsaw alive, both of these new characters and their plot lines wove in pretty seamlessly to the existing narrative between Jigsaw and Amanda. They played off each other really, really well. Jeff, as he moves through each room in the house of horrors that Jigsaw has set up for him, coming face to face with the people that he has this boiling hatred for. And not only that, but he's forced to make a decision. Should they live or die? Put aside his anger, make the right choice. It was really, really brilliant storytelling from Leigh Whannell. Every once in a while, you know, Amanda comes in and she tells Jigsaw, he's past phase 1, he's past phase 2. It really gets the story moving. You're like, oh shit. What happens when he gets to the last room? What's gonna happen? And by doing that, we still get a big amount of traps. We still get those gruesome traps that we love to see in a Saw movie. But as opposed to Saw 2, where they just throw a bunch of random people in a room who you don't give a shit as they get picked off, Jeff obviously has this intense hatred for the people that killed his son. But once you're face to face with these people, you find out they have a story too. When you actually meet these people and you see them in the trap, I couldn't help but sympathize with some of those victims in the traps as well. It is a difficult thing to make you care about new characters, and that's one thing that I have to say this movie did a fantastic job with. And the performances were great too. Angus Macfadyen, who played the Jeff character, he did a fantastic job. Although at times having a little difficulty covering that thick Scottish accent, I thought he did a fantastic job. As well as Lynn, the nurse, here's her name. I didn't want to mispronounce her name, but this actress, she did a fantastic job as well. And all these storylines and all these worlds collide for an amazing finale in their little makeshift hospital room. And by the end of the movie, I found myself sort of rooting for everybody. I didn't know who to really choose. You kind of feel for everybody. You feel bad for the nurse character. You feel bad for Jeff and his son dying and all that bullshit. You feel bad for Amanda because she's really struggling in this one. And Jigsaw on his deathbed. You can tell the weight of this whole scenario is really weighing in on him too. All the performances are great. Going through all the bits of this story until they finally converge at the end. The ending was fucking amazing. I absolutely loved the climax at the end of this movie. The suspense was just so thick in the room as you find out how Amanda's been sabotaging all of Jigsaw's plans and not giving these people a chance and being judge and jury for herself and taking out these people. Then you find Jeff at the very end. He just does not make the right decision. He makes a selfish decision that ultimately kills his wife. It was horrible. Everybody pays for their decisions. So although I do not agree that Jigsaw isn't a murderer, he is. He may not be doing it directly, but he is causing all of this mess. The idea that he is not a murderer is completely wrong. Now, as I talk about the climax of this movie, a few of these things I'm going to mention will be in my predictions and my expectations for Saw 4. So let's go ahead and move into my predictions and ratings for Saw 3. And we'll talk about what I think is going to happen in Saw 4. Okay, so where do I even begin for my predictions for Saw 4? To me, when I go back and I think about this movie, because I went back and watched Saw 3 twice, just to make sure I didn't miss anything. And to me, although I know there's obviously a shitload of movies more, after seeing the first, second, and third one, this almost feels like such a natural conclusion for the story. It reached an emotional height. The filmmaking aspects were great. It really does feel like a natural end to the movie, although I know it continues for several more, so I'm forced to attempt to predict or think of things to expect for Saw 4, and it really leaves me at a loss. But we do have some loose ends. Loose ends being Detective Matthews is still alive out there somewhere. We know something's eventually going to happen with him, or they have an opportunity to push the story forward with his character. Jeff's, our grieving father, his daughter, is somewhere locked up. She's still alive. She's still in a room. Although Jigsaw is the only person who knows where she is alive, she is out there. So those are a couple pieces of connective tissues that can move through. Maybe Detective Matthews finds out about this daughter and he attempts to try to find this poor girl that's locked up somewhere. I don't know. That could be a possible storyline. Another big thing is maybe Jigsaw isn't dead. Maybe Amanda isn't dead, okay? They can always bring back people in movies somehow, some way. I know they showed them. It looks like they're dead. The fucking blood squirting out of Jigsaw's neck, but I don't know. I really like the way they picked up directly from the other sequels, so maybe they'll pick up, I don't know, right from this moment in this room. I don't know. It's hard to imagine that the rest of these movies are just hundreds of hours of tape that Jigsaw has pre-recorded, plans that he's set up, that he's found people somehow to just implicitly trust to create all these super intricate plans. That would be really stretching it as far as believability, that he has planned ahead for years. I don't know. He's a smart guy. I don't know if he's that smart. I don't know. I hope that they can keep it up. I think Saw 3 is an incredibly tough act to follow. So I guess to summarize my predictions, maybe Jigsaw's still alive. Maybe Amanda's still alive. Maybe there's a little piece to the puzzle, another person involved that they're going to bring in. I just don't know. I guess we'll see what happens in Saw 4. Now, as far as the negative aspects, I don't really have many that wouldn't just be little nitpicks. I was a little bummed to see Detective Carey meet such an early demise, but in the end, it did serve the plot as a whole, and honestly, it was a really great kill. The acid in the hand was so gnarly, and that badass wide shot when it rips her ribs apart was a badass kill. So it was a bummer to see Detective Carey go and have such an untimely demise, but ultimately it served the movie well, I thought. And speaking of kills, I want to go ahead and get to that gore score. So let's go ahead and move on to scores and my final rating. So for my rating system, I have three main categories: technical, story and performances, and the gore score. That leading to an ultimate rewatchability score. Rewatchability score is my overall rating, how much I enjoyed the movie. Do I want to go back and rewatch this movie? As you can see, I have a lot of movies back there. Rewatchability is huge, and it's the main factor in my overall score. So first up, for the technical category, any complaints I have about the cinematography or editing would just be beating a dead horse at this point. These movies are following a very deliberate visual aesthetic and editing style, so I can't really be a dick and complain about something that's obviously a very intentional stylistic choice. I've complained about the editing and the color grading before, but what I will say about this is going from a $4 million budget to a $10 million budget in Saw 2, the production value is obviously massively stepped up. So overall, I give this movie a technical score of 7.5, which is a pretty big jump from the technical score of Saw 2. Moving on to story and performances, this is getting an 8 for me. Obviously a major step up as far as story, characters, and performances from Saw 2. The performances in this movie were fantastic. I was in it. I was with these characters, emotionally invested from a story and performances aspect. This movie was fantastic. 8. I give it an 8. Moving on to the gore score, and this movie was a massive step up from Saw 2. I loved the set pieces in this movie. From the opening scene, we get that gnarly foot bashing sequence, which was just disgusting. We had the guy with the rings in his skin as he ripped himself apart. We had the shotgun blast at the end of the movie. Detective Carey's rib explosion, the acid hand, all of the set pieces were fucking badass. I loved gore in this movie. Solid 8. Gore score of 8, which is pretty high. This movie grossed me out, which is not easy to do. I loved it. Gore score of 8. Taking all three categories into consideration, we get an overall rewatchability score of 8. I will definitely pull this movie off the shelf and watch it again. I love the emotional punch of the movie. I love the performances, the gore, the production value, the cinematography. Even though the editing of these movies annoys the fuck out of me, I really absolutely loved Saw 3. Great fucking movie. The best installment for sure so far. We'll see if they can keep it up for Saw 4. So guys, that is my rating. This got an 8 for me, which is a major bump compared to 1 and 2. I really enjoyed Saw 3. It feels like a really nice tight trilogy. I almost am scared to watch 4. I don't want to be let down, so I just don't know what to expect. But I appreciate you guys going on the ride with me for this crazy Saw ride. Like I said, I'll link my reviews for 1 and 2 below. Check out my other videos. Thank you so much for going on this journey with me. We have several more movies to go, leading up to Spiral, again, which will be released on May 14th. And after all these reviews, I will rank the entire series, and we'll kind of just wrap it all up nicely. And then on the final episode of this Saw review series, when I finally rank every movie in the Saw series, I'm going to give you guys the choice to pick my next review series. I'm going to give you guys 2 choices, maybe 3, and I'm going to have you guys vote to see what my next review series will be. I have a couple ideas of some really cool franchises that I want to review and rank, so I'm going to let you guys pick by vote. So stay along for this ride, and you guys will have that choice at the very last video of this review series. Guys, thank you so much. I had a blast watching Saw 3. I'll see you guys in the review for Saw 4, and remember, stay weird, always be yourself, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.
I love movies. Gosh, I love movies. I love watching them, and I love making them.